Hello, everybody, and welcome on the Commerce Show. Today, on this episode number 13, we're receiving Guillaume Chevalier, founder and AI expert at Neuraxio. So, Guillaume has been working in the AI industry for a lot of years. He has over 57, I think, AI projects that he's been involved in. He's really in depth about all the technology side of the thing, but we won't get in that podcast too far. I really want to make sure that you get the most insights about what's coming up next in the terms of all the AI technologies, but also what should you use right now on your e-commerce with the AI technologies. He's also talking about how a business should think of implementing an AI strategy or just an AI project internally because he developed a framework to help developers to build AI projects. So it's one of the podcasts that we go maybe a little bit more in depth about the technical side of things, but I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it. Thank you for being with us today. The podcast starts right now, just after you subscribe to the YouTube, Spotify, and all the social channels that you like. Thank you so much for being with us. The podcast start right now. Today, I'm receiving a good friend of mine, Guillaume Chevalier from Neuraxio. Guillaume is an AI specialist. He's been working in the industry for over how much years, Guillaume? I think almost 10
Uh,
years.
qu- Quite a lot of years. Probably 7 years of AI and 9 years of programming, something like that.
You were telling me on off the record that most of the people that are working in the AI industry right now have like 2, 3, maybe 4 year of experience. So you've been there since a while now.
Yeah, yeah. Most skilled workers in the AI industry are, uh, they've been there since less than 2 years. So lots of people, lots of newcomers to the AI industry. Lots of challenges there. Yeah.
That's cool. So, can you tell us more about Neuraxio? I know it's your business where you're developing AI technologies for your clients, and why you've decided to found that company back in 2018.
Hmm. I have a little story. So, at first, I thought I would start a business only 10 years after working in the industry. Turns out I almost have been working in the industry for 10 years. So maybe that's a factor contributing to me having started my business. But main thing is that I made lots of talks, such as the Web at Quebec and other conferences. And to fatten my resume, I did GitHub projects, tutorials online, and stuff like that about neural networks. And back then, there wasn't a lot of resources to learn machine learning and deep learning online. So my tutorials just boomed because I was one of the first documenting that in
So
a
you
language
you
that
saw
not only
the
PhD. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
you saw the opportunity there. So you decided to go ahead, even if you weren't having the 10 year you were expecting before launching your business, but you went all in, as we say.
Yeah, exactly. I went all in at Cégep, equivalent of high school in other countries. So when I discovered AI and I mean machine learning and deep learning, I really went all in. Before that, I was really liking algorithms, and I was participating in the algorithmic clubs. So yeah, I fattened my resume with nice GitHub projects. I was in demand. People contacted me. Simplest thing was to open my business to respond to this demand, and do lots of projects. So that's how Neuraxio started.
That's really cool. And I know that companies like Samsung, Huawei reached out to you because they heard about you, they heard about your work, and how did you feel at that moment when big corp like that reached out to you to start working with you for AI projects?
That's really amazing. I did some consulting for Samsung. When Huawei contacted me, I was simply too busy to answer this demand 1 year ago. That's so unfortunate. I think I should have accepted this, but anyway, that
It's never
was
too late.
yeah. And before starting my business, I did some consulting for companies in California, in New York, and recently in the UK as well. So yeah, I've got my consulting, and also I do product development. That's another thing. But yeah, answering this nice demand in the AI field is really fun.
I guess they didn't reach out to you only because of Neuraxio, because it was, pretty a young business at that time. But I know you had, lots of experience before Neuraxio. So prior to Neuraxio, what would have been your past experience in AI development and research?
I will expand the question to my experience in general and then narrow to AI development and
Yeah,
research.
go ahead.
So, yeah, uh, I first did a study program in secondary school, like college in other countries. Um, this was the ProTech program. It would stand for Pro ICT or something like that in English. I had a computer back then, and I knew this was my thing. And well, I didn't know AI at that time, but that was programming. So afterwards, I straight out of this program, I only did jobs in software development. So I did the six summer internships. Some were not internships, as I wasn't already at the bachelor level, and so I did software development for six companies, and that was really amazing. Uh, well, I was young.
Yeah.
I did some mistakes. I've learned as well, and so most of the time these were research and development jobs. So that was really my way, my path. It came naturally like this, and uh, during my bachelor, uh, I've published scientific articles with doctorate students across the globe. Some working at Google, some other in China doing a PhD, stuff like that. And I've received 150 citations as of today, despite I haven't done a master nor a PhD. So I did my software engineering bachelor,
Okay.
and
In Laval University, right?
yeah. So I think I missed more than half of the classes and still got A's, and this
What
left
were
me
you
some
doing
time.
that time? What were you doing?
I was pushing forward in other directions. So I did my research papers. I started my company at the last year of my bachelor. I did
Oh,
a semester abroad in Sweden. That was really an amazing experience, and
that's cool.
I've been all over the place.
That's really cool. And I know you've been working at Coveo, which is one of the largest AI company here in Quebec. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about how you get hooked at that part about the machine learning?
Oh, yeah. So Coveo was it was in 2014. I was the youngest guy in the place among they had 200 employees back then. Now it's much
Mm,
bigger. And
almost a
yeah, I was
thousand
the
right
youngest.
now.
Oh, nice.
Mm,
So uh, they were really into machine learning, and as of working in the usage analytics backend in the cloud, I really saw the potential for machine learning in the future, and it's kind of at that moment where I was in Cégep back then that I made the switch from just programming algorithms that were complicated and funny to machine learning all in. So that was in 2014, yeah, before my bachelor, and yeah, that was a really nice experience.
that's really cool. And now because we are on the commerce show, we need to end to e-commerce
Yeah,
applications about the AI, because
e-commerce.
I'm sure lots of people are expecting to have,
Yeah.
feedback from an expert like you, and what to think about the AI technologies, but also what to use, and what would be the process, of reflection before entering into the AI path, if we if we can say it like that. So
Yeah.
just to summarize at first, what are the
Hmm.
applications of AI in the e-commerce industry for merchants? Can you just highlight few of those
Yeah.
and maybe break down a little bit? And prior to that, maybe just explain what is machine learning, because it's not everybody that is listening that can understand. And maybe
Hmm.
also, if you say some technical terms during the following,
Hmm.
would you be able also to just break it down a little bit so it can be more
Yeah, sure.
simplistic for our audiences?
Cool. Good. So I think there is a lot of potential for AI and machine learning in the personalized shopping experiences that stores can give to consumers. But first, what is machine learning versus AI versus deep learning? So there's
Yep.
AI, this big term that is like encompassing
The
lots of,
buzzword. The
yeah,
buzzword.
that's the old buzzword. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
and it's becoming trending again. So
Yep.
this buzzword is, it also includes pathfinding algorithms for things in video games. It is not necessarily about learning from data. It also includes algorithms that can play chess, stuff like that. There's a lot of things that can be called AI that it's almost a joke. There's also machine learning. This is something more recent, where there is a clear framing of having lots of data, and you have something that is an input, let's say, and you want to predict something that is an output. And you have, let's say, examples, training examples for your machine learning algorithm that is a learning algorithm that will gradually learn to map the outputs and predict the outputs from the input given training examples. Picture yourself being like a student studying for a math class and having some exercises to do in the manuals, and correcting yourself using the solutionnaire. So this way, you have a kind of learning, and afterward there's a test in which you are tested, and you're solving exercise you haven't seen. So the process of training machine learning algorithms works the same. Whereas you take some input data, you learn on it to map the output, and then you do a test to evaluate your algorithm with a metric you will have defined so as to solve your business problem. So you asked, what is the
Okay.
first step to using machine learning, let's say, in a business? So you want to have a clear problem. That is the first step. That's the problem definition. What are you trying to solve? And then the second question is, how can you evaluate your machine learning algorithm? Is it good at solving that? So once you have the evaluation metric, you can start thinking about, okay, so how can you map the data so that the learning can happen on this data? So there are many checkboxes that you need to check in order to be able to do machine learning this way, with the training data, with the business problem to solve, and with the way you can evaluate your algorithm in a tangible way. So
And
that
in
being
the
said, there,
e-commerce,
yeah,
what does that
yeah,
mean? I
the
mean,
applications,
yeah, let's talk about the applications. So, on the
sure.
customer standpoint and also on the merchant standpoint, let's deep dive into a few of those so we can, explain a little bit more about those features.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me back on the track. That's exactly what I was going to
Yes.
talk about. So that said, the different applications in the e-commerce industry. So I've mentioned personalized shopping experience that can go far with recommendation engines. There are so many ways to map the data so that the machine learning algorithm can learn what should be purchased with something else and stuff like that to do recommendations on a per user basis. There are also sales and inventory forecasting
Hmm.
according to the past events that have happened. We can learn from the trends and forecast from now what will happen in the future. That's something that's being done right now. There is also automated customer service, chatbots. It's been a trend in the past few years.
Yes.
This is a very interesting field. Lots of things to do right there, such as with BotPress, for instance. It's also one of my clients.
Yes.
There is also visual search and powerful synonym search. So you can search for keywords in the product section and come with results that it can search from for information even in the uh, photos and pictures of the product. So that's very an interesting thing to do. And synonyms, sometimes you search for something and it's important to account for all that could be related to that search, and also with the previous search corrections. If a user searches something and then he changes his query and change again, then over time you have a database of corrected queries where you can uh, predict a bit ahead what the person will search for, and things like that. So lots of
That's
ways to learn from the data and do quite funky things to give really accurate and really precise and results and recall the good products and stuff like that. So
that
that's
that
an
that's
application search. Yeah,
that's really amazing, and I think that's exactly what Coveo is doing
exactly what
actually
Coveo is
with
doing.
yeah, with Coveo for commerce. They've been amazing implementing those solutions into Shopify stores and Magento stores also, where you can enhance the customer experience with having some recommendations and also some relations between synonyms, but also mistakes, but also just being able to predict what you're gonna type based on the previous sessions and previous clicks you did. So that's really amazing, and I'm pretty sure when you enhance the search experience, because most of the, I think it's like 86% of the shopping sessions come with a search. So if you have a poor search experience on your e-commerce, you're gonna suffer a lot and lower your conversion rate.
Yeah,
So I
from
think
the
it's one
moment
of
a store have a lot of
yeah,
product that's required to have. Yeah.
something. Now it's the new standard. Yeah. Let's continue with the price optimization, Guillaume.
Yeah. So there's also price optimization, which is something that's being done more and more according to the information the company has about the users visiting the site.
How does
Also,
that work?
well, depending on the country of the user visiting the website, it would be possible to see how likely the user is going to purchase and do randomized trials of changing the prices of some items in some ranges across different places, different configurations, different informations about the user. That's not only the country, it could be other things as well. And
Hmm.
the pricing strategy is sometimes that when you increase the price, you have an inverse relationship where the number of purchases is going down, and the goal is to increase the area between below this curve, so that the area of price times number of purchases is good. So this way, by trial and error, some commerces can reach this optimal point, and also adapt it depending on their users' information.
Hmm.
That's something very interesting that's surfacing more and more.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
cool.
There's also understanding the customer better, which is another application that is on the unsupervised learning side of things. That's a very interesting application I want to talk about. So this one is when you have a user base, consumer base that purchases your products, and a business always define persona for their clients, right? So what this allows to do is to take every user's transactions and tastes and extract automatically clusters of users to categorize them, and then
Okay.
you have this way automatically extracted the persona of your consumers. And you can segment them in some ways and can send targeted newsletters and stuff to different personas and things like this. There are also the consumer cycles where one person is in one spot and then move on to the next depending on the place the person is in its life. So
Hmm.
this can go deep with the calculations it's possible to do. And finally, my favorite, recommendation algorithms. So it's always an interesting thing to recommend different products to a consumer. And even after the purchase has been placed, it's a very, very good way to fidelize a consumer to get it back again. That's the place where there's the most optimization that can be done, because often I think the name of the game is in recurring revenues for stores. So
Of
that's
course.
a good way. Yeah.
And I heard that there's also a way to fight all the fake content in e-commerce. Can you
Mhm.
tell us how it works and which tools or audience can use to fight those fake content? So I heard about fake reviews, fake products, and all that stuff. So let
Cool.
explain us.
So how it works is that okay, so first the first step to take to fight fake reviews and fake products is to limit the reviews to users who have purchased. And fighting fake products, there are lots of steps that can be taken before getting into AI, to allow people to post product only when they're verified. For instance, when you have sellers selling online, such as on Amazon, must have really good fake product policies and methods to prevent that. And afterward, when you have done these first steps, machine learning is the key. When really there's nothing else you can do to prevent that. So I would say it's not the first solution to adopt. It's good to do some security first and some good regular logic, and then AI can be useful because it's so complicated. Because to fake to, to fight fake reviews and fake products and stuff like that, you need to have a learning algorithm that learns the difference between what is good and what is fake. And not only that, it needs to be fair, because otherwise you will cause frustration to your uh, poor sellers trying to upload products and that get refused automatically. So the algorithms need to be very good. What it considers is many things. It could consider the browser configuration of the person uploading the new product or the fake review. It can consider the content of this. It can build a database of fake things and easily match things. So there are ways to match with the images, with the text, with the. It's also possible to look at the timing between each web request of the person or the robot doing the actual interactions with the website. It can go really far with the timing. It is a known thing that robots will often fetch things at a predefined rate and really quickly. So that's one thing to look for. And there's always a fight between hackers and commerces, where hackers get refused by the algorithm that detects them, and then hackers find ways to get around this and
Yeah.
still try to cheat the AI algorithm that is working against them to prevent them from doing fake things. So I've seen things such as people voluntarily adding timing differences in their requests to to try to destroy the AI algorithm that was preventing them from doing fake things on the website to
Hmm.
allow their robots to do some bullcrap. So well, I don't
Uh,
really like this, and I'm on the side of commerces on this one.
yeah, I think it's something that is pretty common for hackers to try to bypass those type of
Yeah.
things. But if I'm on this retailer standpoint, one thing that takes a lot of time is to write some product description. So all
Hmm.
the product infos can be really painful. And I know AI right now can help, let's say, to to put the table, or just to start doing some descriptions, and then I guess getting verified by a human. But I know there's a way to populate and optimize product descriptions
Hmm.
with AI. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? And I know one solution on the market that does part of the job. I guess it's not perfect, but if it can does like, let's say, 50% of the work, it's more than nothing. So what do you think about that content description optimization with AI?
Interesting take. So, first, what I have to say about content generation, that is text generation, it's quite a new topic in AI.
Oh yeah.
AI doesn't have a holistic solution to content generation yet. It is not a mature technology, although it will come to maturity, I believe, in the next decade or two. So that being said, you mentioned reviewing the what has been generated with a human. I think that is a good approach. I would not let simply an AI algorithm describe products online. That would be risky, I think. But the approach of having that as a help to then review the generation of the text can be useful. I know some image to text algorithms that were popular back in 2016, 17. It was starting to surface and be good, maybe even 15, things like that. It's been starting recently on the research side, and we can already see applications of this in the industry, whether it is from images or other things. Sure
Mhm.
thing is that it must be very custom, and it's still very hard to do. And I personally have never tried to do this for a store or something. But I heard that I think View AI has something to do for this, although I haven't tested it.
Yeah, yeah. I heard a lot about View AI, and most of the people talked about it were really satisfied. But as you said, uh, there's still some glitches in the text, and needs to be validated by human. But it does a part of the job. So would worth the try,
Hmm.
depending of the type of the product you're selling. But yeah, would worth the try. Um,
Hmm.
when it comes to product recommendation, I know that's one of your the part you enjoy the most about the
Yeah.
e-commerce. So we hear a lot about upsell, cross sell, and many other strategy to grow the average order value, which is one of the main issue retailers and brands face during their e-commerce growth strategy. So can you tell us more about the way we can leverage the product recommendation with AI?
Okay, so first I've got to dive in and detail a little bit how we can build recommendation algorithms. So there are two types of recommendation algorithms
Okay.
in machine learning and in other spheres. So the first one is product based. So this
Okay.
can be good for a store who has no transaction history at all and just want to recommend similar products or also complementary products. Okay, but the good thing is when a store starts having transactions and some history, then it's possible to do an history based, purchase based recommendation, looking at what similar users have purchased afterwards and at the same time, and so forth, when navigating and shopping. And the
Okay.
ideal recommendation algorithm will take these two different ways of doing recommendations into account. So it's both at the same time, both product based and purchase history based. So that's the best recommendation algorithm you can do out there. It will consider the two sides of things. And there's also an extra that can be done. One more thing that is, I think, not enough done on the in the industry right now is to predict the timing. So when recommending a product, you could have, for instance, a timing. When would this person buy this product that you recommend? So if it's instantly, then you can do cross selling, and if it's far in the future, then you can send notifications to the consumer to uh, get him back in the loop.
Hmm.
So that's a very interesting thing to do. So for
And
cross sell.
do you have an example of that, Guillaume? So like if I'm buying a shampoo, how would
Mhm.
the system would understand, and how would I get notified?
Okay, so let's say you're buying a shampoo and you have an account and you have
Yep.
a purchase history so that we can keep your ID across different purchases in the past that we know are your purchases. And let's say you also accept to get recommendations. Cool.
Hmm.
So from there, looking at the all the histories of previous users, it's possible to have a machine learning algorithm that is trained to predict what uh, a user at a particular time in its purchase history will buy afterwards. So now it learns that from sequences of transactions. So the input
Hmm.
is a sequence of transaction, and the output is for every products in the catalog. What is the probability that you buy it? Again, if it's a product you already bought, or uh, just simply buy it if it's a product you haven't tested yet. And
Hmm.
also a second variable would be in how much time would you purchase it again. So you're on this website, you're buying shampoo, and before that you've bought other bathroom things. And so let's suppose that the store doesn't only offer shampoo things. Let's say they offer lots of different. Let's picture a Walmart, okay, selling everything. So what it will do is that, okay, so you've purchased shampoo at some interval of time already in the past, and again in the future it can predict that you will buy it again. And even if it was your first time, from the other user who have purchased and purchased and purchased again shampoo, it can infer the average timing before you buy again your shampoo, and considering your histories, timings and stuff, it can predict quite accurately when you will buy shampoo again and if you will do again.
Hmm.
So if
That's
it predicts that you will buy something really short and close in time, then it would be a good opportunity to do cross selling. And in the future, you can do upselling, or just selling again for these probabilities that are predicted by the AI system.
hmm. That's really cool. Thanks for this explanation. Um, I know AI is also used in the advertising. I saw that coming, for the last years. I've tested a lot of solutions without having always the expected results, to be honest. I've tested some, you know, Amazon tools for keyword automations, and also I've tested lots of Facebook software. Um, it's
Hmm.
it's always, I think there's still a place for a human to be there for creativity, but most of the time we get some good recommendations. But what do
Mm-hmm.
you think about that, and how would it help us, and what's your vision about ad tech?
Mm-hmm. So first, ad tech is a really big thing. It's what makes the revenues of Google, Facebook, LinkedIn have other plans, so it's not the only revenues of LinkedIn, but it's a really big thing. Sure, it's not the only sources of revenues of Google and Facebook, but it's a big thing. And what's cool is that I from my experience, it works. So let's say with Facebook ads, you select your audiences and stuff, and when you start an ad, you have a first learning phase with your initial budget, and only when you have enough conversions, then the algorithm will re-optimize the audience and be able to show your ads to the right people to increase the conversion numbers. Uh, I think it's really amazing because you can narrow down your audience in a really precise ways, And once the learning is done, it's even more optimized. So from what I see from using Facebook ads is that at the beginning, it is maybe a bit disappointing in the learning phase, but when it's tuned properly throughout all the audience that you have selected, leads start getting in, and stuff starts working. So I
Hmm.
think also a way to be successful with ads is to sell something that have what's called a high ticket price. So if you're selling, let's say, a book that is free and that you only charge shipping that is $7, you might find it really hard to sell that because the price you will get per lead, let's say $8, will be much higher than no, a bit higher than what you have to sell, and maybe you won't
Hmm.
obtain the conversion rates you want. But if you're selling something that is more than $2,000 a unit, then it's a good idea to use such ad networks to do your sales, because only one purchase will make your whole, let's say, ad budget worth the time
Yeah, of course.
and the money. So I think those big companies have built amazing technology, that is Google AdWords, uh, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, LinkedIn ads, YouTube ads. And I think the hardest challenge in using those technologies is to come up with good ads, come up with the good audience to optimize the ads on. In the case of Google Ads, the good keywords. And I think there's no real way right now to completely replace this. You need to have someone
Yeah.
creative designing nice ads, nice landing pages, nice things that are interesting, and that there is truly an offer, and not only an offer, but a need for what you're selling. This is when people will see success, I think, by using ads. And so I've configured those kind of ads for different websites at different occasions and for myself as well. And I think it's really amazing technology that Google is building, Facebook is building, and so forth, because it allows sellers to meet buyers, and it bridges the gap. Despite ads can be a little bit annoying, I think it's amazing.
Hmm.
Now, I think some tools exist to automate furthermore the optimization of the content you're putting forward, and of the everything related to the audience as well, and keywords and stuff like that. I think some tools can help, although I haven't tested that. I think there's something called Magix out there, although I haven't tested it. There's also
Yep.
Heroes from Alex Becker. Never tested it as well. Just seen it
I
in ads,
I did
things
test
like that.
I did test Magix,
Hmm.
and it was amazing at first, because it does just cross data between all your creatives and all your copyrights, and it help you to come up with the best, creative with the
Hmm.
best text. But at first you need to have some good creatives and you need to have good copyright, and then you can merge those together to come up with always the best performing ad. So I think it's a useful tool to do some recommendations and take right decision, but it's not a tool that I would use just to create everything from the ground up. So it's pretty cool, and their customer support was amazing when I've tested the solution. But for now, we're still doing ads most of the time manually, and then we use those type of tool to just go extract some info and insights from the ad sets,
Hmm.
and then we get back to creations of new ad sets. So that's cool. So for the next part of the talk,
Yeah.
we're going to be more about a deeper look into the AI, because I
Hmm.
don't think I'll have lots of guests that on the show that can talk about AI, more about the framework that you've developed. And I think it's really interesting to understand how an AI developer think for the future. So we're gonna stop
Cool.
talking more about the e-commerce side, but we're gonna enter more in depth about AI. So I let our audience know that that part starts to be a little bit more complicated, but also really interesting. So
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I,
So
I know
deeper look
you've
into AI.
yes, a deeper look into the AI. So I know you have developed a machine learning framework because it's one of your
Yes.
specialty. Uh, can you
Hmm.
explain us, first, what is a framework, and why you did, develop a framework to help projects to be developed on AI?
Okay, I will get into this, and I'll try to be kind of supportive or explanatory enough for the non-technical audience out there that
Yes,
could be.
thanks
So
for this.
first, what is a framework? A framework is basically it's a programming package that you
Hmm.
can import in your project, and this package is providing tools to build your software on top of it. And okay, so that is one thing. Now I'd like
There's
to talk about,
framework
yeah,
in there's framework in in all development stacks.
everything. Yeah,
So
yeah,
when we
sure.
develop an e-commerce, we do use other frameworks. So it's something common. So we can see it as a toolbox for the developer that would like to start a machine learning project. Is it correct?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
let's say you would like to do a website, then you would use a website building framework, for instance. So now,
Yeah.
let's say you want to do machine learning in your backend, then you want to use a machine learning framework to allow doing this without spending 9 years in research and development. So that's a that's a good thing to have to speed things up, because in software everything is built on top of what already exists. You know, we're talking with computers right now. We use the hardware, the software, the operating system. We can only keep building on top of it, and starting something on the side is always a very complicated thing. So frameworks,
What's his
it's
name actually for what's the name of your framework?
the name of my framework is Neuraxle. So it stands
Neuraxle.
for the combination of neuron and an axle. Okay, so an axle is kind of the rolling thing between two wheels of a car. What it pictures is a machine learning pipeline
Hmm.
where data is stumbled and processed and turned around to make it work with the project as a foundation of the project. So Neuraxle is a machine learning framework allowing to build many different machine learning projects. In general, it is a general purpose machine learning framework. You can do computer vision with this, natural language processing, time series processing, product recommendations, name it. Every machine learning projects, you can start them on this framework.
So the link of that framework is going to be in the podcast the description, so you're going to be able to have access to it. I guess it's going to be a GitHub link or just a website link. But anyway, why did you choose to create your own framework instead of just doing consulting for clients? I know you've developed lots of expertise, but
Good
you
question.
at some point you decided to put on the market a framework, and I guess you're having some leads because of that, because now Neuraxle is used a lot
Mhm.
in the AI industry. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So just to clarify, so I do consulting. I also build technological products,
Okay.
and I have online courses. And there's also my framework, which is kind of the pillar of everything else. Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that happened in my consulting practice, and also in my internships and all sorts of other projects I've done on the side, and personal projects. So I've participated to or contributed to more than 57 AI projects. I'm probably today at 75. I don't know. Uh, so I did a lot of AI project, and most of them were machine learning projects. And I just saw every time the same problems, the same potholes on the road, the same things happening that needed to be built and built again. You know, because there are some tools online to allow me. There are some frameworks already to do machine learning and stuff like that, but they are, we're always building and innovating towards the future. And I, I saw patterns that were always missing. One day I got bored. I was really just bored. I started one night coding this in my home, and I knew it would just solve the problem for my future projects,
Hmm.
starting new projects faster, simpler, more client satisfaction, things like that. So I started this project as I knew this framework would be so needed in my future projects, and that I would find it just too annoying to start from scratch every time. So that is what justified starting my own machine learning framework. And we see this trend of starting framework with different lifetimes in the life of some programmers. So there's, I would call, let's say, three levels of programmers. So level one are, let's say, just simple programmers, probably beginning in their field. Level two, the programmer is often doing conferences and talks and shows and things like that. And level three, the programmer is now choosing the technologies needed for a project. There's the good analysis that's being done, the good choices are made, and this programmer ultimately will be brought to. So some of them will create their own framework as of seeing what is needed to be done, and afterwards there are more levels after that, I could say. But that's the, I would say, natural progress of programmers. And it happens that I'm also an entrepreneur, so I'm doing business projects on top of that as well.
Hmm. That's really cool. Um, Moving forward, I have some questions about, the roles in R&D you had in your career so far. Because I see that time goes fast. We're
Mm-hmm.
almost already at 45 minutes. So uh, I know you had several roles in R&D. So can you briefly
Yeah.
tell us what has been your best outcome from your background in R&Ds?
Mm. Cool. Interesting question. So, um, I think before starting my company, my best outcome was when I was at Vuban. When I was there, I started a project in the Industry 4.0.
Okay.
And as we can see online, their project is to predict some failure rates of some products being manufactured, and therefore reducing inefficiency of a production chain. And also, as visible publicly, this is the first AI project that Vuban does marketing on, and that was a successful AI project on their side.
Hmm.
That's very, I think, rewarding to see that after I've been working at Vuban before starting my company. And it's cool to see that I was the one who designed the system at first, especially that I hadn't finished my bachelor at that moment in 2017. And yeah, that was a really nice project. Also, other projects are very interesting. So I know Humaneo Technologies has been uh, has received a lot of success in their project recently, and I was also the one starting the project there. I did that for other clients as well, and most of my clients still are in progress of having their project being done. So that's very motivating. So I'm someone, I would say, who starts the big projects the right way by choosing the good technologies, writing the good plan, and having everything set up so that the companies can do the project in a way that they know that they will get to an end. And there's
Hmm.
also the problem right now that in the industry of AI, skilled workers, as I've said earlier in the podcast, they have less than 2 years of experience. And
Oh yeah.
uh, AI is such a fast field that it's very hard. Someone needs to know all the possible techniques, and the machine learning specialist will need to bridge the gap between the business problem to solve and the algorithm that will give predictions by using the data that sits in the business. So in the end,
I think it leads to my next question, because
yeah.
you've talked a lot about, the fact that lots of people are missing some experience in the AI, and lots of
Hmm.
people are, getting to a dead end when they start a project. So prior to reach out an AI business and consulting firm like Neuraxio, which you're the CEO of. Uh, what are the good steps? So if we can be helpful for our audience today, so prior to
Hmm.
reach to a firm like you, what would be the steps to be efficient in the project and start to have a structure? So, of course, maybe using the
Yeah,
actual framework, but
that's a good
what,
idea.
how would you say a client should be prepared prior to reach out to you, and what would be the
Hmm.
steps? And that would be our final question, because I think it will
Yeah.
open some minds for our audiences to prior to do an AI project.
Yeah. So my clients have different maturity levels. I would say technological maturity levels in their businesses. Some clients want, they know they want to do AI, but they have no data and they want to get there and they need a plan. So I would say this is the case for a small contract where I would guide them and coach them. Some other more mature clients already have the data, already have a clear idea of the problem they want to solve, and when this happens, then it's really the best case scenario where it's possible to do AI and more especially machine learning and deep learning. Deep learning is just a more powerful version of machine learning when there is more data available.
Okay.
So it's difficult because sometimes I've seen, no, not sometimes, a lot of times I've seen tech companies hire interns that are new to the field of AI,
Okay.
and sometimes they are managed by non-technical people or even technical people but who don't know AI techniques and AI algorithms and stuff like this, and they put the interns in charge, and then what happens after a year, uh, they hit a wall. It can happen for so many different reasons. Maybe it was a research project affiliated with an university and the intern reused some code without taking the legal side into the aspects, such as avoiding certain open source licenses. So it is an art to choosing the code correctly. Sometimes there are patents in the way. It's good to do a research and avoid infringing on these patents as well when the application and the project is big. Sometimes it's the lack of data that makes the project fail. It happens a lot of times, more than we think. Sometimes it's a change in direction. So, a cause for lots of AI projects failing is that the problem wasn't defined properly at the start, and all the work needs to be redone again when the objectives changes. So, when the code is very clean, then it's possible to change like this, but sometimes it's not, especially when the programmer is a beginner. uh, Knowing the fundamentals of clean code, clean architecture, and good software design is good for having viable business projects. So I think a
Of
good
course.
outcome, to get back to the previous question also, what was my best outcome in the projects I've seen? So I have the quality that the projects I start are so well structured that a company can take the project and move forward without hitting a wall, in such a way that the project is clean enough that it can be understood by any newcomer to the project, given the right short training to be kept up to date. So
Hmm.
that is both a blessing and a curse, in the sense that some of my clients, I would say a lot of my clients, if not most of them, want to keep the success for themselves and let's say hide me under the carpet. So often companies like to buy my success and my long-term stability into conveying machine learning projects that will survive and that will not be a flop. So,
Okay.
what businesses need before doing business with me? Well, I think having a clear problem to solve is a must. Having data is required, and if they don't have data, I will only start with a small consulting contract to just coach them in the good direction so that they can acquire this data and have everything set up properly. If they don't have enough data, I will say no to the project. That is something that's needed for the project to move forward. That's just uh, the goal is not to work just to work. So
Yeah, for sure. What
having a
is
lot
the
of data.
amount of what is the amount of data that a client would need prior to launch a project? So, let's say for an e-commerce, how much data would needs to be taken, in consideration prior to decide to launch? So an e-commerce that sells, 5 transaction a day, maybe it's not enough to
That
to
is the
to
biggest
fill.
question in machine learning.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
the biggest question, or one of them. So the answer to that is always I don't know. People do that. It's just uh, close to impossible, but not that much. It's just simply very hard to estimate the amounts of data needed to solve a problem unless you have experience in solving problems like this with data like this. So before so a consulting contract or a product development contract, or trying an AI algorithm on a business's data is always something hard, because there needs to be a diagnosis of the data at first. So let's say a business have a clear problem to solve and that they have enough data, and then they hire my business to solve this problem for them. So the first thing is to inspect the data. Most machine learning scientists and data scientists and people working in this are sometimes hitting walls by building prototypes on fake data to publish research and then try to
Of course.
apply their algorithm blindly to different problems. Like if they had a hammer and they're searching for nails, this is not a good approach. The good approach is to go see a business, go inspect the data, see if the data is of good quality. If it's not, then fill in the gaps, clear some data, filter out some data, fill in some voids. Things like that needs to be done on some data, because the quantity is not a good enough indicator of if the data is good.
Mm,
The complexity of the problem to solve needs to be taken into consideration. The cleanliness of the data needs to be taken into consideration. Also, the statistical distribution of the data needs to be considered. So let's say you want to build a cancer no cancer classifier looking at, let's say, breast x-ray data or something like that, or MRIs. Then uh, chances are that only 1% of people in this data set will have cancer, and all the 99% of the rest won't have it. So when facing data imbalances, when some classes happen at different rates than other classes, then rebalancing needs to be done. And in these cases, that most most business data follows a natural Pareto law, logarithmic distribution or inverse distribution of even language. Some words are used most of the time and some words are used not at all. And in machine learning projects, a rebalancing of that needs to be done. In research, people don't do that because they use perfect data sets that are simple to use to get results and show results. Those data sets have already been worked and reworked so that results are easy to get on these data sets. It happened to me to build a tutorial one time by using such a data set online, and the tutorial got in the hundred thousands of views, almost 3K stars on GitHub. I did the first page on Hacker News, stuff like that, and it took me only 16 hours to code. That was like a joke in
wow.
2016. That was
Uh,
one thing that launched my career.
that's amazing being features on Hacking News. So just to summarize a bit, so it's more the quality than the quantity of the data. So that's the
Both are
easiest
important.
answers. Yeah, both are
Both.
important, but
Yeah.
what I heard, and we truly see that you're passionate, because we would be able to talk about that for the next 10 hours
Probably more.
about machine. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe more. And at the end, you might generate your speech with AI.
Yeah, I think I hire some text generation algorithm to
uh,
just read everything in my past emails and the work to speak for itself. But I would apply some filters to filter out some confidential information, just to be sure. So,
at the end, Guillaume, just before we end, I would like to know, what would be your best advice for someone that would like to start their business, and maybe to
mm,
start their business in the AI industry, because
yeah,
it's the place you're at. So you did the big jump, as we say.
yeah.
So what would be the best advice? Because lots of our listeners are entrepreneurs, so I would love to know what would be your best advice for those people.
Best advice. good. So it depends if you're building a service company, such as for consulting, or a product company. On
Yeah.
my side, I'm juggling with both. I'm building a product that is a uh, product recommendation engine that also predicts the timing in the future for when users will buy. Okay, so that's a big product I've been working on a lot.
Hmm.
And so if you're starting from nothing, okay, let's suppose that you are a student. Okay, so if a student wants to start a business in AI, then okay, first look at the trends. When will you have finished your studies, and what can you learn so that it is trending once you finish, not just right now and fade away later? Okay, so pick a trend. Okay, pick something you like and that will in the future be trending.
Okay.
Okay, then put yourself
Cool.
out there. Yeah, it's cool. Put yourself out there. So that's what I did. I did tutorials online. I got 2 times on the first page of the Hacker News, featured, and stuff like this. So this will help you develop a steady stream of clients contacting
Okay.
you already. So you will grow demand around your expertise. Once you have this demand, if this demand is big enough, then like I did, incorporating your own company instead of just being a contractor will be the logical next move to do. In my case, I started by being a contractor first before incorporating my company to then work on more contracts and by hiring more people. So and as I've said, so this is if you're starting from nothing, because if you want to build a product, then you need to invest, and if you have nothing to invest, then it is something you need to either rely on the money of someone else, like VCs or subsidies, and otherwise so if you start from nothing like I did, well, I didn't have nothing. I mean, I was fine, I was quite fine, but I wanted to be sure and safe before starting a product, not to have the product launch fail or something like this, and I wanted to be solid enough. So the first year or maybe year and a half of my business was purely consulting, and now we're doing more product development than consulting, but we still
Hmm.
accept consulting contracts and lots of small coaching contracts there and there, just to coach people towards building what they want to do in their AI business.
And making sure, I
So
guess, that you're having a little bit of cash flow so you're able to pay your employees and continue to grow and launch the products. So
yeah, you need
that's
a cash cow before doing a product that will be another more long-term cash cow, but that will need a bigger investment and crossing a valley of debt before it be profitable. Yeah,
I guess
so
it's easy to have cash cow when Samsung and Huawei reach you out. but
that's a
but Guillaume, it was all the time we had today to talk about AI. I guess in few episodes we'll get back to new different subjects. Maybe we're gonna be able to talk about the product you're developing when it's gonna be the official launch. I'm more than excited to see that happen. So Guillaume,
yeah.
thank you so much for being with us today, and I wish you the best for the following years with Neuraxio. And if people want to reach you out, I guess LinkedIn would be the best place.
Yeah, LinkedIn or on my website by contacting me in the contact section. That can be something as well. Social media in general, just direct message me. Get in touch. Also, shoot out to the entrepreneurs out there. If you want to build an AI product or start your AI company, it's cool to have a good plan also regarding subsidies from the government, because that's a significant part also.
Yeah,
If you can cut expenses in half with that, that's amazing. And if you can have additional revenues with that as well, that's
that's
just
a good
cool
advice.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I've raised funding a lot of times, probably 10 for my own company, with different subsidies sources from the CNRC, the MEI, the Ministry of Innovation of Quebec, and some research and development credits, stuff like that. I can help entrepreneurs also structure their project and their financial in the future so that everything is right at a higher level than just the programming. So I think I really have some chance to have done a lot of different consulting contracts. I have seen lots of entrepreneurs starting their own AI projects, and I've kind of identified some pitfalls there and there, and some good ways to proceed there and there as well. Well, if you're an entrepreneur watching this right now, don't hesitate to contact me to learn more, and I'll be happy to help you.
Thank you so much, Guillaume, for being with us today. And for everyone that were listening, thank you for being with us on the Commerce Show. Feel free to subscribe and follow us on the social networks. Thank you so much for being with us, and see you soon.